Welcome to episode 81 of The Place of Sound. I'm your host, Natalie Hall. The Place of Sound is a show that explores the theme of space, or social geography, using sound and listening. This is done through a variety of audio media production formats, so you can expect to do a few different types of listening in a single show. Episodes consist of what we refer to as audio portraits, or oral history-style interviews that explore topics of home, soundscape compositions, which use everyday sounds to communicate the personal and social significance of a given place, and we typically end the episode with a short documentary-style piece that explores the place-based identity of the producer. The aim with these projects is to allow the producer to think about the places that made them who they are today. These are the types of projects you can expect to hear on The Place of Sound, and all of them are produced by students here at Carleton University. They're what gets produced in Comms 4501 Digital Media Production, a fourth-year workshop course in the Communications and Media Studies program. This episode is the third in a three-part retrospective listen to some of the work that aired on The Place of Sound in 2024. The first episode in this series, episode 79, explored the audio portrait, and we learned a bit about how audio portraits are produced while listening back to 4 distinct projects. We did the same in part 2, or episode 80, which focused on the soundscape composition, and in that episode we also listened to 4 different projects. In this, the third and final episode, we'll explore a documentary-style approach to storytelling. Because this is a much longer form of audio production, we have the time to listen to only 2 projects. The first is titled, Where Did You Come From? By Jason Scott, in which Jason, through his own family's history, explains that everyone, even the most mundane people, have a unique and interesting origin story. The next is Generations in Motion, Tracing My Path to Stittsville by Sheehan, in which Hannah explores her grandparents' arrival and life in Stittsville and how the city has changed and grown in ways that make it both unrecognizable and increasingly lovable. Both of these projects really embody what The Place of Sound is about, and that's exploring in sound the spaces and places that are close to us that we often overlook. And without further ado, we'll jump right in, starting with Jason Scott's work, Where Did You Come From?
Hello, my name is Jason Scott. I am a fourth-year Communication and Media Studies student at Carleton University. Have you ever tensed up when someone asks you a question like, where did you come from? What's the story behind why you chose to live here? Because you felt like there just simply isn't an interesting story to tell? Well, you're not alone. Throughout this audio documentary, Where Did You Come From? Uncovering a story I did not think was worth telling, I do exactly as the title says. Believe me, everyone has something to say about how they got to where they are. This is a story of fate and how a job opportunity, a broken heart, a restored 1969 Camaro, and a Hurley's rooftop led to my existence. Listen and be inspired to uncover your story, as it will help you to discover new parts of your identity. Enjoy.
How did you get here?
How did you get here?
What made you decide to come here?
Have you always been here?
Where did you come from?
How did you get here?
Have you always lived here?
How did you get here?
How did I get here? I mean, I guess I've always just kind of been here. What do you want me to say? I don't have an interesting story. I haven't immigrated from anywhere. I haven't moved from one province to another. I've never even lived outside of Ottawa. Okay, that's it. Don't ask me that question, okay? I don't have a story to tell. I mean, my professor says everyone has a story. Everyone has something to say. But it's probably only me who's interested in it. Nobody cares about my memories, except for me. Okay, well, maybe my grandma, but... My grandma. Okay, take my grandma, for example. She was born in Sudbury, placed in an orphanage when she was 6, then randomly taken out of it by her dad when she was 14 and he moved her to Ottawa. That's a story. She faced real hardships. Me? There's nothing to say. And I mean, I'm not ashamed of that. I'm not upset by it. Honestly, I feel very fortunate that I've lived the life that I have. I've never had to leave my home, my friends, my family. It's just when people ask to hear my story about how I got to Ottawa, that's when I tense up like this, because I feel like there's simply not a story to tell. But if my professor's right, which most of the time professors are, then I guess I can try to piece together how it is that I got here. That is, Ottawa. Let's rewind time. My great-great-great-grandmother originally lived in... Kate, seriously? Okay, this is much better. First, let's hear from my dad and a little bit about why his mother moved from Holland to Regina, Saskatchewan.
Her dad, he died of cancer, I believe, when my mom was pretty young, like I think she was 9 or 10. So my grandmother, her brother, who was a couple years older, and another sister who was a couple years older, thought it was a good opportunity, so they all moved to Regina.
So my dad's mom moves to Regina, which is where she met her husband and had my dad along with his 3 siblings. At 9 years old, my dad moves, and here's why.
My dad was working in Regina with the government, and then an opportunity for a good promotion was available in Ottawa, and he applied, got it obviously, and we all moved to Ottawa. I think it was 1973.
Well, that's part of my story. Had my dad's father never gotten that job opportunity, I wouldn't be in Ottawa today. I'm very happy that this is where my dad ended up. I know it doesn't hold much weight when I say that Ottawa is where I'm meant to be since I've never experienced what it's like to live somewhere else. So, as someone who spent half of their childhood in a different province, I asked my dad if a part of him believes that his life should have been lived out in Regina if only his dad had never gotten that job opportunity.
No, not at all. The first 3 summers of high school, I would go back to Regina, visit my cousins and my grandmother, and then I'd go work on the farm for a couple of weeks. And it was great, but I could never, I was always excited to get back to Ottawa. That was where my, all my friends were and everything. Like I enjoyed it, doing it for a couple of summers, but no, Ottawa is what I truly call home.
Okay, so now we know how my dad got to Ottawa, but we're still missing the other half of how I got here. As I mentioned previously, my mom's mother moved to Ottawa when she was 14. So similar to me, my mom was born and raised in Ottawa. You may be thinking, well, your dad moved to Ottawa and your mom was here, so there you have it. That's how you got to Ottawa. However, to fully understand my story, we need to know how my parents met.
Well, I was really sad because I just broken up with my boyfriend, and I called these 2 girls who are new friends of mine, and they said, oh, do you want to come downtown with us to cheer me up on Canada Day?
It was Canada Day. I was out with some friends of mine. My one friend, he had finally finished restoring a 1969 Camaro, and he had just gotten it back from the paint shop that week, and so we took it and we drove downtown, and we ended up at the Hurley's in the market on the rooftop.
So we went downtown and we went to a bar, and of course the first bar we go to, my ex-boyfriend is there. So they said, okay, well let's leave and go to the bar across the street. We went across the street and there were some friends there that they knew, and my now husband was one of those people.
I saw Stephanie and started talking, and we just hit it off. And one of her friends, when we were leaving, I didn't have a pen or anything, and she wrote Mom's phone number on my arm in lipstick.
I thought it was fate. Maybe because I was 22, but yeah, I thought it was fate. And I still, 30 years later, think that.
If my friend hadn't gotten his car, there's a good chance I probably wouldn't have even gone downtown. You know, usually we would just hung out at a barbecue or something, but he really wanted to take his car downtown and drive around because he knew it was going to be crowded and show it off. And if he hadn't gotten it, I don't think we would have maybe ended up downtown.
If it's fate that my parents met, then technically it's fate that I'm here. Before asking my parents these questions and understanding the full circumstances of how they met, I would have just told you, oh yeah, my parents met at a bar, your typical story before the days of Tinder. But now, I see how the stars aligned for them to meet. There's this quote by Mel Robbins that I really like where she says, "There is a 1 in 400 trillion chance of being you. You are an amazing you." Like my dad said, had his friend not gotten that Camaro back from the paint shop, or had my mom decided to stay home heartbroken instead of celebrating Canada Day, I probably wouldn't be here. These small details are massive elements in my story, and the lucky chance I was given to be me. Peeling back these layers to my story made me think about my sister. Considering we were brought up the same and have both lived in Ottawa our whole lives, I wanted to know if she felt the same way that I did before I began uncovering how I got here. When I asked her how she responds when someone inquires about her story, this is what she said.
I feel like I almost have to say it's boring, because when I hear from other people or from, they have way more interesting things to say. When I say I'm just born and raised here, not like people would just kind of like, oh, okay. I wouldn't say I'm embarrassed to tell the story. I just feel like no one really cares when I do say it.
I'm hoping that after listening to my parents' story as well as mine, my sister will be inspired to truly think about how it is she got to Ottawa. Not only my sister, but everyone who thinks that they don't have an interesting story to tell about how they got to where they are. Because I promise you, you do. And discovering that story will help you to learn more about yourself and bring you closer to the ones you love. Before uncovering the details of how I got to Ottawa, I thought it was a story not worth telling. However, it has unveiled so much about my identity. Yes, I did not choose to be born and raised in Ottawa, but I have chosen to stay here. I've made this choice because family is important to me, and I want to be close to my family members. Education is important to me, and I wanted to study communication and media studies at Carleton University, so I chose to stay in Ottawa. Now, I have just one question for you. How did you get here?
That was Jason Scott's Where Are You From episode 62. What I really love about that piece is I feel that it embodies a lot of the fears that students have when they enter Vincent's class, or just storytellers in general. I've definitely felt it before, that there may not have been a dramatic person or place or event in my life, and therefore I just don't have a story to tell. But the beautiful thing about the Place of Sound, and I listened to this audio documentary when I was just a fan of the show and I wasn't working on it, is that it turns the seemingly most basic and common experiences in life, like your mom and dad meeting, into something really beautiful and worthwhile. And this is exactly what this next piece does as well. And this is Hannah Sheehan with Generations in Motion, tracing my path to Stittsville.
I'm Hannah Sheehan, a fourth-year Communication and Media Studies student at Carleton University. Travel back in time with my grandparents as they share the story of how I ended up in Stittsville. From dances in Ashton to their first home in Stittsville, their memories unfold, painting a picture of our family's journey. This audio documentary, Generations in Motion, Tracing My Path to Stittsville, is a heartwarming tale of how my family found their way to Stittsville, creating roots and building a home together. Join me as I explore the twists and turns that led me here, making Stittsville a special part of my family's story. Imagine Stittsville in the 1960s, a small town with maybe a maximum of 18,000 people, where everyone knew each other. Back then, my grandparents took a chance on a house here, leaving behind the countryside of Ashton. Little did they know, this decision would shape not only their lives, but mine too, a place where neighbors had room to breathe. But now, houses are closer and not everyone's happy about it. As they share their memories, you start to see how Stittsville, once a cozy town, is facing growing pains. As we journey through Stittsville's past, it's not just a trip down memory lane for my grandparents. It's a roadmap for how this small town shaped their lives, and unexpectedly, mine too.
We met at a dance in Ashton. There was a dance in the little church hall there, and like all the young kids came. We got married, and we moved into Ottawa in an apartment for maybe 2 years, I think, 2 years.
Roughly.
And then we bought a house out here. We looked at two different homes. There was one in Crystal Beach in Ottawa, and this one. And I don't know, we ended up liking this one better. They were both new homes, and we knew people here.
Yeah.
We were married in 61, and we moved out here in 63. We got married and moved into Ottawa, so it was a big change.
Ashton was country.
Very country.
And then what was Stittsville like at that time?
It was like 18,000 for years, and now there's 40.
We were the first house
On the right-hand side.
on this side of the street. You could see the trains coming and going. You could see people getting off and on. Over the years, they built houses, and you couldn't see the train anymore.
And then the train stopped. It didn't come here anymore. Like the farm was rural, but this
Yeah.
was a small town.
Would you say it still is?
No.
No, not anymore, no.
Oh, no. I
This
wouldn't
was
say
not.
so.
This was
I
quite
wonder
populated.
what the population is for a town. It wasn't very big. You knew almost everybody here. They've enlarged it. It's huge. They didn't, they haven't touched a lot of the inside area, but outside, the old Stittsville area is really, really grown up. They tore down the house next door 2 years ago, and they've got two houses on the one lot. And I don't know, it seems to be working out fine, but it's just, it has changed. A lot of our neighbors were not pleased with that.
One of the things is that we had a large area between here and the next house. They weren't tight.
Mm-hmm.
In the city, you'd be,
Every house would be like that.
but there was lots of, they were spaced, well spaced.
But now they're not. And everyone used to walk through your backyard.
Yep. Everyone can, because that was after all the houses were built back there, because this was a crescent, so they couldn't get out.
Yeah.
So they all came across here.
Do people still go through your backyard?
There's two
Not
boys
as
back
much,
there.
but there's two boys that go through once in a long while, and
That's all.
that's about all.
Yeah.
But
They used to all
everybody off the street behind us came up over here to, and maybe other streets too.
They had the soapbox derby out in front of them. They would line up right out here at the end of our driveway, and all the kids had their little cars, and they were supposed to have made these themselves, but I'm sure most of the parents helped. And they would put bales of hay right down here, so if they went off the track, they'd go into the bales of hay. And anyway, one time, Jean and Mary and I or something were sitting out there, and one car came down off the ramp. The ramp would be right at the end of our driveway, and right into one of them, their chairs. Yeah, but every year they used to do that.
Do you guys remember going to the parade when you moved here versus now?
Yeah, it used to be, just a few trucks and that. You know who was in them. Now it's a big parade.
Mm-hmm.
Like this year sounded bigger than any time that we've ever. Like they had food up street and never heard that before. For the parade, I mean. Mm-hmm. I don't know when we got the new arena here, but used to be, the only skating here was the arena.
Mm-hmm. And you guys spent a lot of time there?
Yeah, we did. A lot of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coached hockey.
And Jimmy used to look after the canteen.
And I ran the canteen for minor hockey.
Yeah. They
made big money.
They, it was their canteen. They got all the money out of it.
And I worked the canteen.
It was all volunteer though?
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
That was my thing, eh?
Mm-hmm.
I bought hockey equipment, sticks, pucks, and sold them for a profit for minor hockey.
And normal stuff in the canteen too.
Yeah, and ran the canteen, and it was busy.
Mm-hmm.
But the canteen back then was still manned by the parents, like they used to,
No, I don't think it's like that.
I don't think it is either. I think they have someone to look after I don't even know that it's involved with the hockey or not.
I think it's a paid position now.
Okay.
The soapbox derbies and small parades, they were simpler back then. But today, the town has grown and so have its challenges. My grandparents mentioned the arena and the volunteer-run canteen. That used to be the heart of the community. Now, it's different. Paid positions and bigger events, a sign of change. And here I come into the picture. My journey to Ottawa, to Stittsville, adds new layers to this story. The town my grandparents knew is shifting, and I'm a part of that change. In Stittsville, where love stories unfolded and families grew, change is in the air. My grandparents, living proof of the town's spirit, remind us that while Stittsville transforms, the memories of its past shape not only the older generation, but also those who are just beginning to make their mark. Stittsville may not be the same as it was, but the essence of community, the spirit of growth, and the connection to the past continue to resonate. As I navigate through the town that played a role in shaping who I am, I realize that each step, each change, is a part of a larger story, one that we all contribute to, one that keeps Stittsville alive and evolving.
A huge and massive shout out to Jason and Hannah and every single student who put work into making the Place of Sound possible for 2024. We are now getting into new student work in the next coming weeks, so I'm so excited for that, and we'll see you next time. And before I sign off, a couple of quick notes. A reminder that what we've listened to here on this show is only a fraction of the work produced in association with this project. If you're interested in checking out more, have a look at theplaceofsound.ca, where you're not only able to hear this audio work, but also see some of the original photos and writing that students produced to go along with the audio. There's also a featured work section on the site's blog where you can access some notable individual projects. And in the classes section, you can have a look at the portfolio websites designed by students themselves, which host every project produced in this course. And lastly, under the Listen link, you're able to access the show's archive and listen back to any episode of the show you'd like to hear. But in the meantime, keep your ear out for upcoming episodes of the show, which air on CKCU Radio every other Monday at 6:30 p.m. and are available wherever you get your podcasts.